Just in, a quiet morning in Spain. A country waking up to routine. A princess expected to follow tradition. But today, everything changes. Because while the world assumed they knew Princess Leonor's next steps, something far more powerful, far more emotional, unfolded in the heart of Navarre. And the truth behind her first official duties will make this day one Spain will never forget. Because what looked like a simple royal engagement was anything but simple. And what the cameras captured tells a story nobody expected. Today, you will witness the full journey. Every moment, every emotion, every quiet tension, every royal heartbeat. This is Princess Leonor's first real test as Princess of Vienna. And this is a royal day to remember. Princess Leonor arrived in Navarre just after sunrise, stepping out of the sleek state vehicle with a quiet confidence that immediately changed the atmosphere around her. Crowds gathered behind security lines erupted with applause the instant they saw her. And yet, Leonor didn't rush. She didn't wave mechanically. She didn't fall into the rhythm of predictable royal behavior. Instead, she paused. She breathed. She looked around with an expression that blended responsibility with something deeper, connection. This was not just another region of Spain. This was Vienna, her title, her legacy, her people, and she knew it. But even before she walked her first royal steps into the historic center, something unexpected happened. A young girl, no older than 10, broke into tears just at the sight of her. For a brief second, security moved forward, but Leonor raised her hand gently, signaling them to hold position. And then, in a moment that would echo across Spain, Princess Leonor stepped forward on her own. She knelt down. She opened her arms. And she embraced the girl with a warmth that did not feel rehearsed or royal. It felt human, authentic, a connection that set the tone for everything that would follow. Because this was the day Spain discovered something important. Leonor was not only stepping into her role, she was owning it. The historic streets of Navarre were lined with flags of red and gold, fluttering in the crisp wind that carried the scent of old stone and morning blossoms. Buildings older than the idea of Spain itself stood as witnesses. Today, they would witness the future queen. Cameras followed her every movement. Analysts scrambled to understand every detail. Citizens whispered about whether she would be like her father, the disciplined King Felipe VI, or something different entirely. Leonor's first duty took place in the storied Palacio de Navarre, where officials waited with nervous precision. The expectation was simple: she would greet them, shake hands, offer formal words, pose for a photo. But Leonor chose a different path. Instead of letting protocol dictate the tone, she began by acknowledging them with gratitude, not as a distant royal figure, but as a young leader eager to learn. Her voice was calm, deliberate, and grounded. She spoke not to impress, but to connect. And that, unexpectedly, impressed everyone. The president of Navarre, visibly touched, leaned in slightly as she spoke, a subtle gesture, but one that carried meaning. Leonor wasn't commanding the room. She was harmonizing with it. Leadership through presence. Leadership through sincerity. But it was outside the palace that the day took a dramatic turn. Because as soon as she stepped back onto the plaza, the church bells rang with a force that startled the crowds. A sound so rich, so deep, that Leonor instinctively turned toward the Cathedral of Santa Maria. She locked eyes with it, those ancient walls, that towering presence. The iconic symbol of Navarre's past calling to its future. And then, without hesitation, she began walking toward it. The cameras scrambled. Her team moved to keep up. The crowd surged with anticipation. Because nobody had planned this. Nobody had scheduled a cathedral visit at this hour. This was entirely her choice. Inside, the cathedral greeted her with cool stone, flickering candles, and centuries of history pressing down from above. But Leonor didn't walk in as royalty. She walked in as a young woman seeking understanding. She touched the stone pillars lightly as if feeling the heartbeat of the kingdom she was destined to inherit. And in a moment that stunned everyone, she knelt in silent reflection, longer than expected, deeper than expected, more personal than expected. This moment wasn't for the cameras. It wasn't even for the public. It was for her. And that's what made it unforgettable. When she emerged, sunlight hit her face and revealed an expression transformed, stronger, clearer, anchored. The people of Navarre saw it instantly. This was no longer the princess they watched grow up. This was the Princess of Vienna stepping fully into her destiny. Her next duty took her to a cultural exhibition showcasing Navarre's traditions, music, and craftsmanship. The organizers had prepared demonstrations of local weaving and woodwork, activities usually observed from a polite distance. But Leonor didn't stay distant. She asked questions. She touched the tools. She listened intently to artisans speaking with hands that carried generations of knowledge. Then came another unexpected moment. One of the elderly artisans, with a shaky voice and eyes full of pride, asked if she would try weaving a small piece. The room froze. Royals don't usually participate. Royals observe. But Leonor smiled warmly and stepped forward. The crowd leaned in. Her hands moved slowly at first, then more confidently as the artisan guided her. Laughter filled the room, gentle, genuine, shared. And suddenly, the story shifted. This wasn't a princess performing her duty. This was a future queen honoring her people. From that moment onward, each stop on her schedule carried a new energy. When Leonor met with youth groups, the conversations flowed with surprising ease. Teens who expected stiff formality instead found themselves speaking openly about their hopes, their worries, their vision for the future. Leonor didn't lecture. She didn't dominate the dialogue. She listened, truly listened, with her entire presence grounded in their words. One young student confessed that the uncertainty of the world terrified him. Leonor didn't offer generic comfort. Instead, she acknowledged the reality, then spoke about courage, building small steps, and growing through responsibility. Her tone was gentle but resolute. The kind of tone Spain has longed to hear from a young royal stepping into leadership. But the most emotional moment came later in the afternoon during her visit to the historic ruins outside the city. There, while standing on a ridge overlooking the vast Navarre landscape, rolling hills, ancient stone, and quiet villages, Leonor was approached by an elderly woman who had lived through decades of change in the region. With a trembling voice, the woman said, "You carry the hopes of many. But remember, your heart must stay with the land and the people." Leonor, moved by the remark, placed her hand over the woman's and replied softly, "That is my promise." The crowd fell silent, not out of protocol, not out of respect for royalty, but out of the recognition that something real had just taken place. A generational passing of responsibility. A blessing from history itself. As the day continued, the weight of her duties grew, yet so did her presence. Journalists began to whisper that Spain was witnessing the beginning of a new era, one where royalty was not distant, but deeply intertwined with culture, heritage, and humanity. The final event of her schedule took place at a community gathering in the outer district of Navarre. Families lined the streets, voices rising with anticipation as the sun dipped low and cast the city in a warm golden glow. Leonor's arrival ignited cheers that rippled like waves. Children held handmade signs. Mothers lifted toddlers onto their shoulders. Elders smiled with quiet pride. In her closing address, Leonor spoke with clarity, eloquence, and emotion. She honored Navarre's history, its people, its strength. But then she added something unexpected, something that would dominate headlines for days to come. As Princess of Vienna, she said, "I promise to walk this path with you. Not above you, not ahead of you, but with you." It was the moment that sealed the legacy of this day. The crowd erupted. Cameras captured tears, real, heartfelt tears, from citizens who felt seen, heard, respected. In that moment, she wasn't just fulfilling her duty. She was creating a new model of monarchy. A monarchy anchored in love, humility, and connection. As evening settled over Navarre, Princess Leonor took one final walk through the plaza, surrounded by people whose lives had been touched in one unforgettable day. The lights reflected softly off her face. Her pace was slow, thoughtful. She waved, but each wave carried meaning. She smiled, but each smile carried intention. This was the beginning of something historic. A new chapter not only for Navarre, not only for Spain, but for the story of Princess Leonor herself. A day that started with routine expectations transformed into a powerful declaration of who she was becoming. Not simply a royal figure. Not simply a future queen. But a leader defined not by title, but by heart. And that is why today will forever be remembered as the day Princess Leonor truly became the Princess of Vienna.